Again, that rule of men supposing to demonstrate strength. So as a man, you are supposed to demonstrate strength throughout. You don't have to show any form of weakness. You and I know that there are people who are naturally weak, no matter the agenda. There are some women who are stronger than men. It could be issue with genetic makeup. It could be issue with even the upbringing and many other things. But there is a societal pressure that as a man, you always have to show strength and no iota of weakness should be found in you. And this again, I find it to be a problem. So when we are talking about compulsive masculinity syndrome, we are basically talking about the fact that there are traditional rules in the societies that places pressure on the man in the area of dominance, the area of emotional suppression, and in the area of strength. Okay. Now, let's do a quick fact check. According to research, men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide compared to women. And what is the reason? Societal pressure to suppress emotions. And this is one of the traditional gender rules I just talked about, the suppression of emotions. So because men are not allowed to open up and to express themselves emotionally, they bottle them up within themselves, and it pushes them to the extreme of taking their lives. So for every 9 men you pick, okay, according to the research, all of them can die by suicide compared to taking 9 women. So men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide compared to women. And the reason is just because of societal pressures to suppress emotions, which is unfortunate, but that is what's happening. And this cuts across. It is not specific to a particular geographical location. But I would like to put our conversation in context, looking at it from the point of, Africa. Okay. The male figure in Africa is taught to be tough, is taught never to express emotions. But I thank God for therapy and I thank God for knowledge. When I got to know of this, I have never ceased expressing myself emotionally. When the need be that I'm supposed to weep, I weep. When the need be I'm supposed to be happy, I express my joy. Life is full of ups and downs. It is not all the time that you are going to have a good feeling. And I speak to the men out there. When you are in difficult moments that call for expressing your emotions, feel free. If it is weeping, feel free to weep. If you are married, weep on the laps of your wife. Feel free to exhibit it. And it's not a sign of weakness, rather it is a sign of strength. Because the more you keep the emotions, they pile up. And as negative emotions pile up, a time will come, their intensity will overwhelm you. And that is when people engage in suicide. So research has that more women contemplate suicide. But again, more men complete suicide. Because we bottle up emotions. So that is a little statistics that I wanted us to consider. Because of this issue about compulsive masculinity syndrome, Some people also call it toxic masculinity or poisonous masculinity. And it does a lot of things to the male figure. Forgive me, dear women, that today we are being a little biased, but it is International Men's Day, and we need to talk about this concept of compulsory masculinity syndrome. So what are the impacts of compulsive masculinity syndrome or toxic masculinity? Now let's look at it from different areas. So the first one I want us to touch on is mental health and well-being. Back in Ghana, there is a popular saying that "Obe mensu, obe mensu," and the moment we see tears in your eyes, even at the funeral grounds, people begin to perceive you in a particular way. Come on, this is funeral grounds. Somebody is dead. Somebody close to you is dead. And you are expected to weep. I am a Christian. When you pick the Bible, there is a whole book on weeping. That is why it is called the book of Lamentations. It is a book dedicated to weeping. The prophet Jeremiah was weeping. But in our culture, we try to suppress emotions and say that men don't cry. So how are you supposed to go through the grieving process? And that is what leads to the first issue I talked about earlier, increase in suicide risk. There's a stigma, I don't know, for whatever reason, there's a stigma attached to expressing emotions or even seeking help. As a man, you are expected to maintain a certain level of control at all costs. But this is not realistic. It is never realistic. It is not all the time that you can be on top of issues. Some issues may be really overwhelming, and the need may be that you vent your emotions. But because of the stigma and because of the ego of men, men have a certain level of ego to the extent that we wouldn't want to see others see us to be weak. And that is what is killing our mental health and affecting our general well-being. So that is with the mental health and well-being. And you also have underutilizing of the mental health services. I have been a counselor in Ghana in a university, and most of the time, the students, even at a place where we know that knowledge is in abundance and where knowledge is nurtured, you realize that it's more of the women or ladies that came for counseling compared to the men. Because at the foundation level, the orientation was such that men were not supposed to, or boys, or the young boy in the family was not taught to seek for help from anybody. You were taught to figure out things your own way. And that is what we grew up with. And that is what translates into students or even people who are more mature utilizing mental health services. Because nowadays, things are really changing back in Ghana and around the world. A lot of mental health facilities, even if you don't want to go in physically, you can go in online, which is more anonymous. But somehow, people are not making use of it. And not just people, men are not in particular making use of it. Why? Because we didn't grow up with it. So when they talk about compulsive masculinity syndrome, it starts right from infancy. So if we really want to deal with this issue, we have to start with a lot of advocacies and education. We'll come there. Because it starts from the infancy. For people to have this syndrome, it is not just when they are 20 or 30. No, no, no. They caught it right from 5, 6 to 10 years. So a lot of men have a lot of mental health, depression, anxiety, and the rest. And these psychological issues, if they are not treated, can lead to suicide. The whole assumption, according to research, is that people think that the moment I go to see a mental health expert, it is going to undermine my masculinity. I am a man. People have defined being a masculine in a different way. We have sold that idea into our minds, and we have also bought into that idea that this is how a man ought to be. But in actual sense, it is an erroneous conception that has been wired in our brains. Who told you that if you're a man, you can't express emotions? It's not the same blood that flows within a man and a woman. But because of this compulsion of being the male figure and then some form of ego that comes with it, people don't want to seek mental health service or support. And you know, something that you have grown up with, changing it is very, very difficult. Education has its role, but changing it is very, very difficult. Again, the suppressed emotions often lead to destructive coping mechanisms. And that is why, over the years, you realize that a lot of men engage in alcoholism, extreme alcoholism, smoking behaviors, different forms of substances. People also begin to dip their head into working tirelessly and without any limit, and even exhibiting aggression. These are all as a result of suppressed emotions. Because if you suppress emotions, it will come out in another way. That is how it works. So people who are frustrated, they tend to vent their anger in another way. And that is what they do. So it is not surprising that more men are into drug abuse. It is not surprising, according to research. So imagine a society where men were to exhibit or allowed to, come out of their shelves to talk about their feelings, and there isn't anything like compulsion to demonstrate that I am a masculine figure, and this and that are the things I ought to do. It would have been a very powerful society for men. Now, let's consider some relationships and social dynamics when we talk about compulsive masculinity syndrome. Now, there is this what I call the standard emotional connection. Okay, and when we talk about standard emotional connection, you're talking about the inability to express vulnerability that leads to harming relationships. Now, men who are obviously socialized to avoid emotional openness, okay, often struggle to build up deep interpersonal connections. So most of the time, they are isolated, and that is the standardness, okay, that you're talking about. So once you engage in compulsive masculinity syndrome, you are not able to make any meaningful emotional connection. They move from one relationship to the other, and all of their relationship is full of toxicity. Emotionally, they are not free. There is no growth. They are not grown emotionally. They are stunted. That is one of the social dynamics. Again, we can talk about gender-based violence because traditional masculinity norms and roles, they are linked to higher rate of domestic violence. They are linked to homophobia because these traditional masculinity norms tend to encourage dominance, tend to encourage aggression, because strength brings dominance and aggression. You understand? So once, by the norms of the society, you have to exhibit strength, then it means that whom are you going to demonstrate the strength to or exhibit the strength to? The opposite sex. So they are always at the receiving end. And that is why there is a high level of gender-based violence or domestic violence. And men are often the perpetrators. Because if you are dominating, it means that you are subduing somebody. Once there is dominance, it means something is being subdued. So who is being subdued? The female. So these are some of the relationship and social dynamics related to compulsory masculinity syndrome. Let's consider the societal and systemic issues in relation to this concept. Let's consider the workplace and economic pressures. Now, in our families growing up, okay, the expectation is that the man is the primary provider. And when you even go to religious homes, a Muslim, a Christian, all the religious people, the assumption is that the man is the primary provider. And that is not a serious, that is not an easy tag, being a primary provider. It comes with a lot of stress. You need to work tirelessly, which will obviously lead to burnout and stress. You are always feeling inadequate because you need to cater for the ever-rising need of the family. Economic pressures. Because you are a man. If you were not a man, you wouldn't have experienced this pressure. But you are experiencing this pressure because you are a man. These are systemic issues. And if, unfortunately, you are unemployed, you can imagine the level of stress you are going to go through. Even for the employed, it is not easy being a primary, provider. So if you're unemployed, then it is very, very serious. Again, this rigid, traditional, dogmatic masculinity norms and rules contribute to high rate of violent crimes. Because research has it that many of such acts tend to stem from the suppressed emotions, or they want to enforce or assert their dominance. And that is why a lot of violence and crime are committed by men. So when you look at this compulsive masculinity syndrome, it is not something that is very simple like that. It is connected to a lot of issues in the society and systems. So people just want to suppress your emotions for you to be a man, not knowing that it is going to affect you as a man in engaging in domestic violence, in engaging in violence and crime. So I pause to move to the next subtopic. What are the effects of compulsive masculinity syndrome? In my presentation, I've touched on a number of them, but I'll add some few to them. So we've talked about mental health challenges. We've also talked about the fact that it can lead to the difficulty in forming meaningful relationship or genuine relationship because you are always harming people in the relationship. Again, it is connected to self-esteem and body image issues. Yeah. So people are forced to hit the gym because of the fact that they get a particular body type. They believe that this is girlish. And that also affects their self-esteem because they don't see themselves as men. They see themselves as a woman who is considered as a weaker vessel. So that affects their self-esteem because of this compulsion. And you see, these are the direct effect on the man. But what about the people around the man? They also experience some effect. Effect on friendship, because I talked about relationships. So obviously the other person or the other party in the relationship is also going to suffer. Children are going to suffer. If it is if it leads to domestic abuse or domestic violence, obviously the other parties are going to suffer. And it also leads to the reinforcement of toxic social norms. So all these put together are some of the effects of compulsive masculinity syndrome, which we need to deal with it. So what is the call to action? Having said all this, what can we do? I've talked about the fact that it is something that we need to deal with it from the scratch. Maybe how incorporate some things into a curriculum at the basic level. Okay, that would, I don't know how to put it, but that would deflate that ego that is put in the mind of the boy child that you are a man and you are superior over the other gender. So at an individual level, okay, what can we do? We can challenge the stereotypes. On a daily basis, we need to resist this perpetuating masculinity norms, traditional masculinity norms. If you are in the house, how you raising your kids? You need to tackle it at that level on a daily basis. We need to be conscious of the fact that a man, it is okay for a man to also express emotions. Number two, I'm also saying that whoever is listening to me, whoever is hearing me, okay, you have to speak up whenever you are witnessing any harmful stereotype, such as a stereotype that is dismissing emotional expression by a man or a boy. So something painful has happened and the man is exhibiting his emotions and maybe they go like, keep quiet. You don't have to do this. You have to be a man. There and then speak up and correct it. Let the person who is saying that know that it is wrong. Don't do that. Allow the young boy to express his emotions. So we can this is at the individual level, what we can do to help in your own small ways, so in your families, in your homes. Deal with it at this level. Speak up. Don't let people just say things and go scot-free. Correct them. Let them know that it is not okay, because it is a syndrome, and I've talked about the effect already. If weeping will change your organ from being a man, then so be it. And obviously, that is not it. These are only societal definition of who a man is supposed to be. It doesn't change you in any way. So when we continually speak up on a daily basis, then we are going to change the narration in our own houses. And that is where change can start. Again, let us learn to embrace vulnerability. Like I said, you can't be in control all the time. It is okay for a man to exhibit vulnerability. There's no problem. We need to model healthy emotional expression. So if you are a man here, if you're a woman here and you have children, the boys, model healthy emotional expressions. Again, encourage conversations about mental health and about general well-being in your own small way. If you're a woman and you're also listening to me, you need to support men in seeking help. If your man is going through difficult moments, don't push them to the wall. Be a man. You are a man. Be a man. You are a man. There are a lot of mental health support out there. Encourage them. I would say normalize therapy. Let therapy become part of our lives. Just like you go to the doctor whenever you are not feeling well or you feel that there's something off in the body. That is the same way with mental health. So support men around. Support your voice around. Let them use the services available. Even sometimes there are many peer support groups. Make use of them. If you don't have access, speak to a counselor, speak to a therapist. They can help you out. That is what you can do at the individual level in dealing with compulsive masculinity syndrome. Then away from the individual level, we can look at the community engagement, which we may not really have control. But I don't know who will be hearing my voice. If you have an influence, if you can put people together at the community level to create a safe space where men can talk about issues going on, it is okay to do that. Most of the time, we tend to allow the women to form such groups. When men are forming groups, that is about fitness. It's about making money. That is okay. But you can also incorporate this issue of compulsive masculinity syndrome to it and talk about hard issues. Because those atmospheres, they create an environment where people can talk freely about issues they are going through without being judged. So that there wouldn't be any form of compulsion in the atmosphere. Again, there can also be advocacy, just as you are doing now, for broader cultural change. And as I talked about, it is a societal pressure on the man. So the stakeholders of the various societies, people, opinion leaders, need to also be aware that it is not okay to say be a man and all the time be a man. It will lead to compulsory masculinity syndrome, which is not needed at this point. So there need to be some cultural changes, and it starts with you in your own small way, in your homes. And just away from the society, our society, we can also look at policy and work with advocacy too. We need to challenge that traditional breadwinner zone. I'm sorry, traditional breadwinners' opinion or rules that the man is the primary caregiver. Yes, of course, the man is supposed to help, but he shouldn't be the sole source of support because he's going to feel all the burden and the pressure. It is okay for the woman to also support. 50-50 is okay. In cases where the woman even earns more, it can be 60-40. There's no problem. If the man is earning more and can help, fantastic. But it shouldn't be a pressure to conform that you have to be the primary provider no matter what. So even at workplaces, when I get opportunities, I do talk to them about the fact that I advocate for parental leave. Isn't it, strange where a woman is allowed to go for maternity leave, 6 months, 9 months, they will get their pay, but a man must only go for 1 week. Any other period, you have to suffer for it. In terms of salary, because you are the man. Come on. Yes, we understand that we didn't give birth, but our presence is also equally important. I'm not saying we should also be given 9 months, but at least some consideration. Looking at 9 months to 1 week, the gap is too wide because we are all in the lane of compulsory masculinity syndrome. Now, having said all this in concluding, there is these 2 books I would like to recommend if you want to know more about it. The first one is titled Man Enough. Man Enough by Justin Baldoni. Man Enough. And then another book by Bell Hooks. Okay. Bell, yeah. Bell, and the Hooks. Hooks. Bell Hooks. And then that book is titled The Will to Change. The Will to Change. Yeah. They throw more light on some of these issues relating to compulsory masculinity syndrome. So in conclusion, I say that if you hear phrases like Obemensu or man up, boys don't cry, be a man, take a moment to address it, whoever is listening to me, because these are emotional limiting expressions. Okay. Again, encourage boys to share feelings without fear of judgment, because studies have shown that men who express emotions have stronger relationships and lower stress level. So it is okay to express your emotions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akosah. Indeed, it is okay to express your emotions. And that has been a great submission by Dr. Akosah. Once again, I'll briefly mention or share his profile or all that you need to know about Dr. Akosah. Now, he is a seasoned psychologist who has dedicated himself to helping individuals navigate and overcome psychological challenges through therapy. His work is deeply rooted in empathy, expertise, and an unwavering commitment to improving the lives of others. Over the years, he has developed extensive experience in teaching and conducting research, particularly in the interconnected fields of counseling, psychology, and education, with a focus on higher education. A visionary thinker and problem solver, he's mostly described as pragmatic and multi-potentialite who possesses diverse skills and interests that enables him to excel in various domains. Among his many innovative approaches, he is a passionate advocate for forgiveness therapy, which he views as a powerful tool for healing individuals and fostering reconciliation in a world grappling with emotional pain and conflict. Through his works, Dr. Akosah continues to inspire others and contribute meaningfully to the fields of psychology, counseling, and education, both locally and internationally. In addition to his contributions, he holds international credentials as a chartered member of the British Psychological Society, that's BPS, and professional member of the American Association of Christian Counselors, AACC. These affiliations highlight his commitments to maintaining global standards of excellence in psychological practice and counseling. Currently, he is a lecturer at the Birmingham City University. That is the Birmingham City University's College of Psychology, UK, where he teaches a number of counseling and psychology models. Dr. Akosah also serves as the first vice president of the Guidance and Counseling Association of Ghana, a role that underscores his dedication to advancing the field of counseling and psychological well-being in the country. He played a pivotal role in the successful organization of Ghana's first ever National Conference on Guidance and Counseling, a landmark event that brought together professionals, educators, and policymakers to discuss and promote his practices in the discipline. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Akosah, for making time to share your knowledge and then also impact knowledge on compulsive masculinity syndrome. We are very, very much grateful. We see again, but then I had a few notes taken, and I'd like to briefly share a bit whilst we have barely 8 minutes to go. So this is the call to action to reduce or minimize the compulsive masculinity syndrome. That is, we should challenge the stereotypes on the daily basis. And then we should speak up, not just the men speaking up, but also you as an individual. We should speak up wherever you are and you happen to hear people speak about men not showing emotions and vulnerabilities. Also, I learned that we have to learn to embrace vulnerability. That is, it is okay to be vulnerable. It is very okay to be vulnerable. Doc also mentioned about us encouraging conversation on general mental health and well-being, and also creating men's group or groups that also promote mental health and as well encourage men in this regard. Lastly, he mentioned about the policy and workplace advocacy, where women are mostly given a long period of time as leave, whilst men are probably given just a week or a minimum of that duration. And we are encouraged to advocate that men are also, they also need that some time to rest off the stress and then shake off the tiredness. Once again, if you join us, thank you so much. Dr. Akosah as well recommended 2 books for us to read, well, to look out for and read. One of them is Man Enough by Justin Bowden. I hope I got the name right. Bowden. Yeah. And then also another by Bell Hooks, that is The Will to Change. Doc, thank you so much.
The will to change.
The will to change. The will to change. So
you are welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you to everyone who joined us. We are most grateful for your time. Once again, to all men, happy International Men's Day. We appreciate you. And it's okay to show vulnerability. It's okay to show emotions. It doesn't make you a woman. It makes you rather healthy. It's more about focusing on the healthy aspect of showing your emotions and expressing it in the better way. Thank you once again for joining. Have a wonderful evening. We come your way again whenever we are ready. Thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.